Hello? Oh, okay. Well, hi. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome everyone to Icon. There she is. So we're going to go ahead. I don't know if people are on. Hold on. There. I need to look at the camera. Okay. We are trying something new today, and we're just streaming our online from here live. So hope you're all camera ready today. You guys can make your
At least the front row.
debut. At least the front row, yeah. There's no one in the front row, so that's fine. Hello.
It's just, there's a delay, so there.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. So if you guys want to, if you want to get out your phones and log on to icon.online.church, if you want to, and then just turn the volume all the way down, but then you can engage in the chat with folks who are online, if you want to, like during the message, but that's just if you feel like doing that. There are some people online. So we've got Christy and Robin and Stephen and Hannah are on. So, oh, yay.
Oh, you're fresh.
Okay.
I don't know, we should be live by now. Just keep going, I'll
Okay.
keep working on it.
We'll just keep going. Okay, so before we get into things for this morning, there is someone really special here today. I told her I was going to call her out, but so you guys know that over the past couple of years, we've been building a really beautiful online community, and there are people from different places in the country that tune in every week. And there is one person who has become such a dear friend, found us back in probably 2020, pretty early on when we went online, huh? But it's Janine Akins, and she's here from Seattle. And so excited! Yeah, she was like, a few weeks ago, we announced how we were going to be a part of the San Marcos Pride Festival, and she texted me after church, and she goes, "That's it, I'm coming to Texas. I'm coming. It'll be a real quick trip, but I'm coming." So we did that yesterday, which was so fun. How many of you guys were able to make it out yesterday to the? Yeah, it was really cool. It was such it just had a really good, fun, vibe going on. It was just, people were just, we had a sign on our booth that said, free parent hugs, and people were coming up and, just giving big hugs, and we were able to just speak, words of life and affirmation over people, and so yeah, it was really great to be a part of that. So anyways, Janine, we're so glad you're here with us in person. I wish you could be every week, but we'll take a week again. So, and then to all of you online people, we're so glad that you're joining us. We're doing something new today, and you get to join us live. So hopefully you guys can hear us okay. You can see, okay, good. All right, so what we're going to do this morning is we are going to start off the morning with the prayer of examine. We did this a few weeks ago, but just to kind of have a contemplative time of centering our hearts and just getting ourselves in a good headspace. I know, everybody comes in every single week from a lot of different places. I don't know what your week has been like. I don't know what your life is like right now. I don't know what kind of stresses you're carrying or things that are laying heavy on your heart. Maybe you're just busy. That's me. It has been a week, you guys. Yesterday, I got into bed and I was like, I literally haven't been this tired since I birthed my children. It's just been with our personal family schedules and with everything going on. So I think today, I'm just coming in a little physically exhausted and just kind of in need of just a second to center myself and to kind of put aside the busyness of the week and just remember who I am, remember whose I am, and just kind of rest in that. And so we are going to go ahead and start with the prayer of examine. And what this is just basically, typically it's something you do in the evening, kind of reflecting on your day. But what we're going to do this morning is we'll just reflect on the past 24 hours. So just think about the past 24 hours of your life. And we're going to go through, there's 5 different prompts that we're going to go through, and then we will end it with prayer. And so the first part is if everyone could just kind of get yourself into a place of just kind of contemplation and kind of rest and centering yourself. And the first thing is just to acknowledge an awareness of God's presence. So in whatever way that feels comfortable for you, just take a second. For those of you online, we'd love for you to join in too, just to take a second and just become aware of the fact that God is present with you right here, right now. maybe you might want to take a couple really deep breaths in and out. And then secondly, I want you to take maybe about 30 seconds and I want you to review the past 24 hours just from a place of gratitude. Just think of big or small, anything in the past 24 hours that you are grateful for, that you're thankful for. Even if things were maybe not ideal, maybe it was a really hard 24 hours, you could just maybe find one small thing and reflect on the past 24 hours with a heart of gratefulness. And then the third prompt is I want you to think about over the past day an experience that caused you to feel fully alive. Something that made you feel at peace, made you feel joyful, comforted, whole, connected, your best self. Something that could be understood as an experience in which you felt close to the divine. So just for the next few seconds, just kind of think over the past day and find something that happened in the past day that made you feel connected to the divine. And then next, I want you to think of an experience that maybe caused you to feel drained of energy. Maybe something that caused you to feel frustrated or irritated or angry or sad or alone. Maybe something that made you feel less than your best self. And then I just want to invite you to first, as you reflect on that, to release any shame, any guilt that you may carry around that thing. Embrace your full humanity and just release that shame or that guilt that you might be feeling and release it into the care of God's love. And then lastly, I just want to invite all of us to think about the next 24 hours, the rest of today, tonight, tomorrow morning. And I just want you to find a way to look at that with some sense of hope in your heart. Despite what the circumstances are, despite what you're walking through, just even if it's just like a teeny tiny ounce, or maybe you feel like you're in a place where hoping for something better doesn't feel possible. So the rest of us, we'll just bear witness with one another and we'll hope for each other. For those of you that feel like you can't find any, the rest of us can hold on to that hope for you. All right, let's go ahead and pray together. God, we're so grateful that you are with us. And we're grateful that even for those of us in this room that are even questioning whether or not you're real, that was me this week. I had moments where I just felt like, is any of this even real? If we're having a great time, if we feel really close to you, whatever it is, how we're experiencing you right now, I'm so grateful that your love and your grace is big enough for all of that, that how we're feeling or the doubts we're carrying or the shame we're feeling or whatever it is, that none of that changes the fact that we are so beloved and that we are so held by love. So help us as we walk forward in our day and our week to just find a way to be so grateful for life. We're so grateful for this life we get to live, to maybe help us shift our perspective a little bit if that's what's needed. I pray for comfort for those who need comforted. I pray for grace for those of us that are facing really difficult decisions and hard things in our life. And I pray that every single person, both online and here with us today in person, that we would walk in our day just feeling so incredibly held by love. In your name I pray. Amen. So let's take a big deep breath. Can we do that? Yeah, Janine wants to say something, and listen, she's all the way here from Seattle, so we're letting Janine say it. I promise I'm not gonna sing.
No, well, that's fine too, if you want to
I
say.
show them online with this music.
So shine it at this camera.
Right here?
Here, I can do that because I can see it a little bit better. Oh, do you need to read it too?
Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead. I mean, I just want to show it to him first.
right there. Okay, show it to where they can see it there.
Okay, so this, so the reason I came from Seattle, I was talking to my husband, Tom, and I'm gonna do this without crying. Yesterday, you guys were represented at the Pride Parade, and I have a kid who's transgender. He's 21, and that's how I found this church, because I didn't believe you could be a Christian. So you're on that itself, and so finding you guys was amazing to us in Seattle. It was like, just a breath of fresh air. Anyway, yesterday you guys passed this out at the Pride Parade. I want to read it to you. It says, "A church for all. We love and celebrate all the wonderful ways God created you. If you ever need a safe space to experience faith and belonging without strings attached, with complete affirmation and inclusion, you can sit with us." That was life-changing for me and my husband. We came from a religious, charismatic church, and when my then lesbian daughter came out, we were gonna give up everything for love, which was the whole point, right?
Yep.
So we're one way, we missed it, and so now my husband and I are making up for lost time, and I do know at 61 years old, if you can change and wake up, then anybody can do it. So I don't buy the excuse anymore, "Oh, I'm too old, our grandparents don't understand." It's like, it's not true. So anyway, I'm glad I found you guys, and being online saved our lives, so I love you guys.
We love you.
She's the best. Well, I'm going to invite Pastor Sabrina to come up to give our message today. And then Sabrina, we have it angled so you can kind of, the phone is the camera. So you can just kind of, engage with both. And for those of you that came in after I said so, if you want to log on to icon.online.church and engage in the chat with people, you can feel free to do that. But I'm going to hand it off to Pastor Sabrina.
Thank you. All right. There's a new setup here. We have like the panel of experts in the back. Like, the judging panel. All right. Well, good morning. Kelly, Pastor Kelly, thank you so much for that moment to breathe. I'm always getting in here a few minutes late. I'm always late. It's good to have that moment to center. And remember why we're here. That this isn't a production that we need to show up perfect, and we're just here to be together and experience God together and show one another love. So, before I get into the message, want to invite y'all to share any, prayers of concern that we can lift up this week. Anybody in your, loved ones who need care.
Keep going. Sorry. I just have to adjust audio.
pretty soon I'm gonna have someone coming over here fixing my hair.
I have one. They aren't here this morning, but Mark and Jenny Wisty, they have an adopted daughter, Anna, and her birth father's father passed away this past week, and so Jenny has asked that we would, and that family doesn't have a lot of support. They live in, I believe they live in Louisiana, but they don't have a lot of support, and so she just asked that as their church family, we would come alongside and just keep that family in prayer. I can't remember his name right now, but
I believe it was David.
David, yes, you're right.
Yes. Yeah, and Jenny has also set up a GoFundMe page for them to help with the funeral expenses. And that's actually kind of an issue that's been raised to me recently, is like, in my work with my nonprofit, thinking about ways that we can address that. As we live in a country where that's not really taken care of, and so for most people, I mean myself included, like if you don't have documents prepared, finances set aside, a sudden serious illness or death, I mean, leaves people in a position where you have to crowdfund to pay for a decent burial. So yeah, we pray for them and for all those in that kind of situation. Any joys this week?
Football's back. It's a joy.
I don't understand that, but I'll lift it up for you. Football for the football people, very good.
Yeah, for the football people.
Hey, it's only been in the 90s this past week. It's like, ooh, it's getting cool. Feels great. So that's a joy.
Janine's here all the way from Washington.
Yes! Janine, and for sharing that beautiful testimony with us. Love it. Thankful for her and her family.
Our daughter turns 3 on Friday.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Congratulations, turning 3. Yes, there are a lot of September birthdays. Had some friends over Friday evening, as my husband Locke, his birthday's in September, and then my friend, both my friend and his girlfriend and his daughter, all have September birthdays, and their baby boy is August 31st.
Just missed it.
Yeah, and I'm August 1st, so we were like all August, September birthdays, party celebration. So good to celebrate, new year of life and the beauty that we get to share together. Well, I'm going to say a quick prayer for us, and we'll jump into the message. Oh, gracious and loving God, we thank you for all of the bounty, all of the goodness and the love that you have just showered us with, for the hope that you give us to hold on even through the stressful times, the very difficult times, and the depressed times, and that even when we can't really feel that hope, that you provide us with others to carry us through, to hold us close. I pray that you would fill us with your Spirit, that we may be that love and that comfort to those around us. And Lord, just speak to us this morning, that we would receive your message that you have for us, and that we would know how loved we are. In your name, amen. So, Dan, tell me if I move around too much.
You're
Yeah.
You'll be good for whatever.
Okay,
Yep.
great. So I heard that last week while I was watching church online, and I got to see Amo's wonderful message that brought in Disney Pixar's
Inside Out.
Inside Out. Thank you. I was like, the movie with the feelings. Inside Out. That y'all had some technical difficulties here, so you missed out on part 2 of the now streaming series. So this is like kind of jumping back to it for y'all who have been here in person. And this is the last of our series, of this series. That we've been looking at where we can learn about God in media through music and movies. And this is not as a replacement to scripture or to elevate these things to the same level as sacred texts, but because God can and does speak to us in a multitude of ways. That God is still speaking, and sometimes we might read something in the Bible and not fully understand it, but we can feel it in music, or we can see it in action through a movie, or we can get a sense of the spirit of it through art. And so I just invite y'all to kind of like enter that space of, being open to all the ways that we can experience God. And this morning I'm going to be talking about self-love. Our culture makes it hard to love yourself. I was recently listening to a podcast called Terrible, Thanks for Asking, which I recommend. And the host, Nora, they were talking about like body image, and she shared that even though she grew up with wonderfully supportive parents who wanted her to have a healthy sense of self, like they didn't even buy her Barbies when she was little because they didn't want her having kind of a distorted body image. But she went to school and she had friends and she saw television, and all of that made it ingrained anyways. And so she didn't believe that her body was good or the way it was supposed to be. We have, pretty strict images of what body for men and women is supposed to be like. And, non-binary is not even really an option in the general mainstream culture. We have images of what a successful person is supposed to look like, of what a girl boss is supposed to be, of what a good dad is supposed to be. And that's all before you have the effects of ableism and racism and homophobia and fat phobia and all other sorts of stigma and marginalization. Lizzo, in an interview, she was talking about like before she became this icon of body positivity and acceptance. When she was around 20, she was dating a guy, and they're there like just chilling out after having a great time together. And he looks at her and says, I just really feel real relaxed with you. And she's like, great, that's wonderful. And then he says, yes, I was showing your picture to some of my friends, and they said you have a great face, but your body needs some work. And at that time in her life, she says that was like the thinnest she's ever been. She had been working out super hard. She was restricting what she was eating. And when he said that to her, she didn't even get mad. She believed he was right, that her body wasn't good enough. Her body was bad. And that somehow it was a sign that she just wasn't working hard enough or devoted enough or, good enough of a person. And a lot of our Christian thinking makes self-love difficult too. I remember a song when I was a teen that came out on the Christian radios called Goodbye Self. I don't know if any of y'all remember that, Janine. Yeah, it's all about, just saying goodbye to yourself because it's no good, and it's got to be all about, God only. And it's just complete denial of who you are is lifted up as a good thing, right? When we talk about denying yourself, carrying your cross, and I think oftentimes this is particularly hard on women who are expected to be this Proverbs 31 woman, the perfect wife who takes care of her kids and listens, lets her husband lead the household and just puts her stuff on the back burner for the sake of her family. And, it's at least a little better for men in that kind of theology, is at least you're allowed to have some sense of self and authority of your household. But in general, often self-love in those frameworks is seen as selfish or ungodly or even idolatrous, as if you're making yourself God in some way. And then there's also just a lot of harmful theology around saying that we were born sinful, that we're born lost, and there's nothing good about us without God, which means believing in God in certain ways, saying a certain prayer, getting baptized, living and doing certain things, that aside from that, there's nothing good about you. Growing up for myself, I never struggled terribly with body image. I was always just kind of like, well, I'm not pretty, but I'm fine. I don't think I'm really ugly either. So, okay, but I bought full into the idea that we were bad and sinful, and if you weren't following God and doing all the right things, you were pretty much, worthless. And this was especially hard when I started wrestling with my sexuality and realizing that I wasn't straight. And that was a real struggle to, recognize that there could be anything good in me if I wasn't straight. Right? So there's a lot of bad theology out there that really makes it difficult to love ourselves. And when we talk about loving ourselves, I want to lift up and kind of differentiate between our true selves and a false self. So our true self is who God is calling and creating us to be. We're invited to be constantly growing and discovering our true self. As a theologian, Richard Rohr, and his organization, the Center for Action and Contemplation, they say that your true self is who you are and always have been in God. At its core, your true self is love. Love is both who you are and who you are still becoming, like a sunflower seed that becomes its own sunflower. The false self, on the other hand, is what our ego parades around to be, kind of the facade, the ways in which we hide from ourselves and hide from others. It's a social and mental construct, right? It's just this container, the front that we put out. We have that false self, whether it's through just denying our real thoughts and feelings about things, or projecting a front through our clothing and our attitude we put out there. I think of Regina George, from Mean Girls. She was the queen bee. Oh, yes, there she is. Beautiful Regina George. She loves herself, right? But it's really this false self that she's projecting and loving and promoting in the world, right? She's never really open and vulnerable about who she truly is, right? We've heard it said that there's nothing good about us without God. But the truth is that because God made us so, we are good from the start.
Yes, so good.
God made us good, and so we are good from the start. From creation, without having done anything, God calls God's creatures good. That goodness is always in us and is our true selves. And that's why I love Lizzo proclaiming that she is beautiful and that she loves herself. And that, if you could show the one with the quote from her, if you have that one. There we go. She says, it's so hard trying to love yourself in a world that doesn't love you back. Am I right? So I want to take this opportunity right now to just feel good as hell, because you deserve to feel good as hell. And the singers in the back, y'all can start the song up. We wanted to play some audio clips, but they're copyright stuff. So, yeah. So, Christine, you can leave the choir back there for us. You know, maybe we're not everything we ever hope to be. There's still things we want to work on, you know, still ways we want to grow, health goals we want to reach, life goals we want to reach. We should never stop growing and becoming more fully who God created us to be. But that doesn't mean that today you are any less good, or that you should love yourself any less because you're not at the end of your journey today. We're always growing, you know, as long as we live, continually growing and learning, and hopefully, you know, if you open yourself up to that, you know, we become more of our true selves over time. And we are created in the Imago Dei, the image of God, and that is worth celebrating. Richard Rohr says, again, that he talks about the true self. He says, your true self is a tiny flame of the universal reality that is life itself, consciousness itself, being itself, love itself, God's very self. We have that tiny flame in us. And when it comes to body image and loving our bodies, I mean, so often, and this is, I think, particularly true in a lot of Christian circles, we separate our physical bodies from like our spirit and who we are. But when we're called, you know, to self-love, that includes our bodies.
Yeah.
Right? And we are all, with whatever abilities, whatever shape or size, blessed with the body we have, and blessed with your inner self also. We don't know how much longer we'll have the body that we have today. I've heard disability rights advocates talk about it, like everybody, if you live long enough, is going to have a disability at some time, right? And so how do we value and appreciate what our bodies can do today as they are, what our bodies look like today? I love, any of y'all fans of Schitt's Creek?
Yes.
All right, some Schitt's Creek fan. Can we pull the Moira Rose quote up? I love Moira Rose. Yeah, she is completely her own person, right? She looks and acts like nobody else around her. And there's this one episode where she's looking for the nude photos that are on the internet of herself. And she's so upset because she can't find them. And so she goes and she tells Stevie, this other character, and Stevie's probably like, I don't know, around 30, young woman. And Moira tells her, allow me to offer you some advice. And I'm not going to try to impersonate Moira. That is a unique voice I cannot do. Take 1,000 naked pictures of yourself now. You may currently think, oh, I'm too spooky, or nobody wants to see these tiny boobies. But believe me, one day you will look at those photos with much kinder eyes and say, dear God, I was a beautiful thing. And that just drives me because, like, you don't know what your body's going to be like in 10 years or in 5 years, or, you could have some kind of accident and things drastically change with what your body looks like and is able to do. So love what you have. And when you love yourself well, then you can love your neighbor well. Jesus taught us to love your neighbor as yourself. And some say that loving yourself is selfish. But when Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself, that has no value if you don't love yourself. If we treat ourselves like trash, if we're constantly beating up on ourselves, criticizing ourselves, hating the way we look, regretting the things we say, hating the way we move in the world, wishing we were more like somebody else. Loving yourself doesn't mean you're selfish and self-centered. On the contrary, when you love yourself well, you can be kinder, more compassionate, and more accepting of others because they're not a threat to your being. You're not afraid that somebody's going to replace you. You're not afraid of somebody looking better than you or touching on that part of you that makes you feel less than. And Lizzo really demonstrates this in the reality show, Lizzo's Big Girls. There's that picture. Again, I wanted to show you a clip of this, but that's Lizzo. It's a reality show on Amazon Prime. And that was actually when I got to know Lizzo better. Now we're like buds. I knew her songs before, but it was in watching the show that I was like, oh, wow, Lizzo. But so she's looking for some new backup dancers. And so the girls around her are all the dancers who were trying out. And Lizzo just shows such compassion towards them and openness and acceptance. one of them, Jayla, she's on the far end here with the tattoos on her legs, is an openly out trans woman. And Lizzo is just so supportive of her and uplifting her and respecting her for who she is. She's also able to call out one of them when they break personal and professional boundaries, and not in a way that's degrading, but in a way that's respectful and saying, hey, like that's not okay. And she's just lifting them up to make them not only the best dancer they can be, but to love themselves more and to become more fully who they are. And she's able to do all that from this place of, I have love and respect for myself. I want you to have the same thing for yourself. How many of you know a toxic person or someone who can be hateful or mean or abusive? If you know that person well enough, you can probably see the brokenness and the lack of self-love they have for themselves. So all that they hate about themselves, they turn onto others. They feel threatened by others. They bully the person who does something well or better than they can themselves. They can't love others well because they don't love themselves well. So how do we love ourselves? I love the way this theology professor, Dr. Loder, defines love. He says it's a non-possessive delight in the particularity of the other. A non-possessive delight in the particularity of the other. And so for us to love ourselves in our particularity, often we see our faults magnified. We see the things we don't like about ourselves and things that we think others are judging us for. But oftentimes, sometimes those are particularities about us that those who love us love about us. Right? I mean, y'all know I walked in here a few minutes late, and I used to go down this like spiral, and I'd be late somewhere and be like, oh my gosh, like they're not gonna take me seriously. I'm irresponsible. Why can't I be a grown up? Just like down this whole spiral, like what a terrible person I am because I showed up late. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm here. I'm doing my best. I'm easygoing. And so I just, I'm not stressed out about time the way other people are. So how can you see those things, instead of seeing them as a fault, accept it, love it the way others might see and love it about you? And with that, laugh at yourself. This is something I have learned from this YouTube trainer, MK Fit. Yeah, I have a picture of her. Yeah, that one. There we go. And that's EMK Fit. And she does it's dance workout, but it's the most ridiculous stuff that you're like, oh my gosh, if anybody saw me doing this, she does this thing called the sexy chicken, which you can just imagine is not very sexy. She says to flail and look like a noodle, and I can do the noodle. The sexy chicken is something like this. Yeah, it's she's laughing at herself, And so when I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, like I look ridiculous. I don't have to take myself so seriously. Laugh at yourself. And that's just become, as I've done her workouts, probably for like a year now, just such a good practice to have, to be able to like take a break, not take myself too seriously, and she does other things also that are just like, she does do some sexy moves in there, and she's like, oh yeah, she'll be like, we're so pretty, and you're like, yes. It's good to laugh at yourself and surround yourself with people who love you well, and take in that love, accept that love. I identify as an Enneagram Type 9, and as I was doing like reflections on this during Lent last year, I realized how I just, in my mind, people give me a compliment, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, like you say that to everybody, right? Like, I have this one friend in particular, Ryan, and he'd be like, oh, that was the best sermon ever. And I'm like, sure. And then I was like, I finally, as I was doing this reflection, and realized like other Type 9s do that same thing. I'm sure other people do as well. But I was like, oh, yeah, maybe he does actually mean those things. He did actually really like what I said, or, whatever I did. Like, maybe it is good. And so just take in when people give you that feedback, like, don't think they're just lying to you and making up like, oh, that's great. And then really they think it's crap, I mean, think about the way, if you have kids or, nieces or nephews or been around kids, they draw a picture, and sure, it's not going to be hung up in a museum, but you think it's beautiful and it's amazing, and their creativity and the way they use color, it's like, it's great. So when people say they love something of yours, don't be like, oh, well, I'm, not going to be on America's Got Talent, so it's nothing. But no, accept it. Accept the love that you receive. Feel connected to your body and appreciate what you can do. I kind of touched on that earlier. And again, ways I've practiced that, again, is like with MK Fit, and massage. Like, I've started treating myself to a massage like every other month this year. Oh, that's like the best thing. But I know some people don't like to be touched. That might not be your thing, but it's good. The Buda massage place right across the street here, that's where I go. It's really good. Do yoga, do whatever like makes you feel connected to yourself. Be vulnerable and express your feelings. Lizzo and Moira and MK Fit, like she does some like chat videos, and they're all vulnerable and open about the ways that they struggle. Moira, as I was talking about, like, is just so her own person, dresses like nobody else, talks like nobody else. But there are times when she literally goes and hides in the closet, right? And she's hurt and she's broken and she doesn't want to see anybody. And, Lizzo, I think there's also like videos out there of her reacting to haters' comments and like expressing how it really hurt and how it, she has those days that it really gets to her. So we can't love what we won't even allow ourselves to feel or express. That's another way we often hide under our false selves, by burying those feelings and things deep down. Appreciate that you're the only person, you're the only one that you get to fully and intimately know from your own perspective. Right? Each person is just a multitude of mysteries and stories and experiences and thoughts and memories. And it's great to get to learn more about others and get to know others more. But wow, what a gift you have to know yourself so deeply in such a close way. And also, another way we love ourselves, I've been practicing this one more, that sometimes you're angry. You be angry for the wrongs that people do to you and stand up for yourself. Sometimes others don't treat you right, and you have to be your own number one ally. You need to be angry at the wrong that was done to you, express that in a healthy way, and seek whatever justice and healing that you need, right? So how often do we let things go by when it happens to ourselves, that if it happened to somebody else, we'd be like, oh no, that person's gotta be straightened out. But if it happens to yourself, you're like, oh, well, I must have done something wrong, right? Or it must be my fault in some way, or it's not worth making a big deal out of. I'm just gonna kind of end with a testimony that, I feel like maybe the past 6 months, I've really been on a journey of deeper self-love. And so, ways that, I've got to stand up for myself. I traditionally have not been a person who likes to confront others or deal with conflict. And I've just realized, you know what? I don't have time for that. I don't deserve that. Something's got to be done about that. I had to cut out an old friend out of my life because of something that was done to me. And in the past, I think I would have really struggled with that and felt guilty or regretted it or been like, oh, maybe we should try talking. Maybe we could work things out. But now I'm at a point where it's no. I can work on forgiving this person, but I don't need them in my life. And there's some sadness around that, but I'm okay with it. You know what? I don't need to put myself in a position of being hurt again. I also, I'm super excited because tomorrow is my photo reveal where I get to go see the photos I made. This is probably the biggest purchase I've made for myself ever. But I hired a photographer and took nude photos. Thank you, Moira. And tomorrow's my reveal, so I'm really excited. And it was just such an amazing experience. The photographer was so kind and just made me feel so seen and so beautiful. And, even just allowing myself to put that kind of money in myself, because I'm the kind of person who will usually be at the store and I'm like, oh, that's a really cute shirt. Oh, but it's not on sale and it's $10. Never mind. I don't really need it that bad. So allow yourself to love yourself and do things for yourself sometimes. But yeah, and I just feel like after a couple years of some really, really difficult stuff, in a really strong place. And so I just hope and pray that, all of you can practice some self-love this week and be kind to yourself so that we can, find and treasure that divine spark that you have in you. Amen.
Amen. Oh, thank you for that. That's so good. I know I need that reminder like every day, because loving yourself is such a process and it's a journey. But so thank you for all those reminders and for that encouraging message. Thank you all for joining us online. We'll chat with the online folks just to see like how this experience was, because again, it's just trial and error. We're going to figure out the best way to like bring these two communities. Well, it's one community, but to bring us all together on a weekly basis. So anyways, that is all that we have today. If you're able to stick around and help kind of, tear down and help reset things up, cool. If not, please do not feel any sense of obligation whatsoever to get out of here. So thank you guys for being here, and we will see you back here next Sunday. Have a great week, everybody.